Hari Hari, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Well, having a little technical difficulties out here with accessing the internet, and happens from time to time. Out rural, we're out here in the woods, and sometimes maybe a squirrel chews on a wire or something. So they usually take care of it within a relatively short amount of time. I don't think it's my equipment. I hope not. But anyway, this is, I have a phone that can access another kind of internet service. So there we are. Hare Krishna. Yeah. Krishna, Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. What a wonderful time to be living right now, where the incarnation of the Lord as a devotee has just appeared just a few generations ago. And the world is waking up. Hare Krishna, Hare, waking up to devotion, devotional service. Waking up. What a wonderful time. The Pandavas, when Krishna left the planet, they saw all the signs. Parikshit Maharaj, this 5,000 years ago, when the incarnation of Godhead, Krishna, left the planet. Hello, Hare Krishna, Jocelyn. How you go? One of the fortunate ones, getting Krishna's mercy. They saw all the signs of Kali Yuga, the sages of Naimisharanya. They saw all the signs of degradation, and they kind of panicked. Ayo, Lance, Hare Krishna. And they gathered together in a forest of Naimisharanya. It's about 5,000 years ago. What to do? What to do? It was after the Battle of Kurukshetra. All the leaders of the world, practically speaking, had been killed in that battle, except for a few, the Pandavas. But the Kali Yuga was descending very quickly. The darkness of ignorance, the illusion was taking hold in a big way, killing animals, not following any direction coming from realized souls. It was coming, the darkness was coming, and they could see it. So they gathered at Naimisharanya, and they were praying, Krishna, please, God, please, where is the path for people in general in this age? Where is the path? And into the assembly came Sutta Goswami, and he had just heard the Bhagavatam from Sukadeva Goswami, who was the begotten son of Srila Vyasadeva, the compiler of the Vedas, who happens to be a literary incarnation of Krishna, specifically for the purpose of broadcasting this Bhagavatam message. Sukadeva heard it when he was in the womb of his mother. He was a realized soul, but realized in kind of an impersonal, everything spiritual way. But when he heard about the activities and the pastimes and the personality of Godhead as spoken in the Bhagavatam, he he was actually in the womb for 16 years. He didn't want to come out. But when he heard the Bhagavatam, he says, all right, I'll come out. And 16 years. Hare Krishna. That's a long time to carry a child. Hare Krishna. When he came out, he was fully grown. Came out. If you've ever seen animals, I can't imagine his mother's situation, but when I lived in Tennessee, my neighbor had cows across the street. They were for slaughter. What can you do? It's Kali Yuga. But he loved his animals, and he knew who was the son and daughter of who, and he was intimately connected with them. And he always assisted when one of them was giving birth. So he called me and said, come on over. You want to see what happens when a cow gives birth? Come on over. Come over. So I went over and I watched, and the calf came out fully formed. Like usually a human baby, their eyesight isn't very good and their body is kind of weak and they can't talk, they can't walk, they can't do anything. It takes a long time once they come out of the womb to grow and mature, and then 4 years old, 5 years old, 16 years old, like that. But when the calf came out, he was fully formed. He was covered with hair, he had hoofs, he started walking right away and mooing. He was just little, but he was fully formed when he came out. He came out a fully formed little cow. He's walking around. And he said, where's my mother? Was his first inquiry. Where's my mother? I'm hungry. So Sukadeva Goswami came out of the womb. He was fully formed. And he didn't stick around. He didn't stay with his mother and father. He left home immediately to find Krishna. For him, finding Krishna meant finding the opportunity to glorify Krishna in the association of those who wanted to hear about Krishna. That's what he was looking for. He already had Krishna. He was looking for the situation where he could glorify Krishna. But he looked crazy. He looked like a madman. He was naked. And he was wandering all around. And people thought he was just a crazy person. And actually crazy people were following him and laughing and throwing things at him and making fun of him. But he was totally oblivious. He was looking, where is this opportunity to glorify Krishna? And he found Parikshit Maharaj on the banks of the Yamuna asking the question, what is the duty of someone about to die? What should they do? They should hear about Krishna. And all the sages were present, and they were also offering as best they could from the scriptures. They were very realized souls. But Parikshit Maharaj was waiting for Sukadeva Goswami, and Sukadeva Goswami was looking for Parikshit Maharaj. Qualified spiritual master and qualified disciple, then the message can be transmitted. The speaker and the hearer, hearing and chanting. So at that assembly, when Sukadeva Goswami wandered in to the assembly and everybody recognized, okay, Krishna has sent this person with the message of Godhead, and he began to speak the Bhagavatam. Parikshit Maharaj was inquiring from him. He began to speak what he had heard from Srila Vyasadev's father. Suta Goswami was present in that assembly of sages who were listening. The Bhagavatam has been spoken on other planets also. Higher planets it's spoken. There's actually more cantos of Bhagavatam on higher planets. And some of those sages have taken to the other planets this message of Bhagavatam. But we have 12 cantos. So now we're at the assembly on the sages of Naimisharanya with Sutta Goswami, who just heard from Sukadev, because the sages at Namish Parikshit's gone, Pandavas are gone, and the age of Kali Yuga is coming in fast. It's coming in fast. The darkness. So what to do? What to do? So that's when the Bhagavatam was spoken, and that's the Bhagavatam we have, as spoken by Sutta Goswami to the sages at Naimisharanya. That's what we have, by the mercy of our parampara, and Srila Prabhupada dedicating his life to give us the Bhagavatam, give the world the Bhagavatam. So they were seeing the signs of degradation and they were panicking. But now we're seeing the signs of the reversal. Yeah, it's going on, Kali Yuga. But we're seeing signs of the Bhagavatam manifesting. The light and the truth and the spirit of the Bhagavatam counteracting that. We're seeing those signs. We're seeing the light shining through. We're seeing people waking up. And learning how to take shelter and live their life in Krishna consciousness. What a wonderful time to be living in the middle of this waking up, this dawning. In hippie time, there used to be the song, Dawning of the Age of Aquarius. And all the hippies were like really happy. Oh, the dawning of age of love and, you know, Aquarius. Well, okay. But really, it's the dawning of the age of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Sankirtan. That's the dawning of the age. Well, I got this internet problem, so I can't access. I wanted to look at the Dasa Avatar song by one of the acharyas, where he glorifies the different incarnations. It really helps to appreciate this incarnation of Krishna, and especially Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Looking at the different incarnations and their missions. So that we can actually really, fully appreciate the incarnation of the Lord as a devotee. I mean, he incarnated as a fish, he incarnated as a tortoise, he had specific functions. Not a little tortoise, a really big one. Could hold a mountain on his back. Transcendental forms. He incarnated as Lord Buddha to stop people from misusing the Vedic scriptures. He had many incarnations. So when they say this incarnation of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the most munificent, he's giving what no one has ever given before. We can really appreciate this incarnation. Chaitanya. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. The Lord appearing as his own pure devotee in the mood of ecstatic love. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. What a time to be living! It's only a few generations after this incarnation manifested pastimes and activities. When you go there, there are trees that were present when the Lord, they're still living there, trees. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama. So just reflecting on some of that. And I've been binging on a series of podcasts done by second generation Hare Krishnas, whose parents were some of the original disciples of Srila Prabhupada, and their children, who are now in the 20s and 30s and have children of their own, small children, but their journey in Krishna consciousness and how they're situated in the world. And they're very talented, and they're accomplished, they have educations, and they're Krishna conscious. How wonderful. It's wonderful. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. I love hearing them tell their story. So it's ongoing. The what do you call him? The interviewer, Nam Ras. It's ongoing. I think he does it every week or maybe twice a week. He has a devotee come, not always second generation, sometimes older, but these interviews are priceless. They're really priceless, where people tell their story. Isn't that living Bhagavatam? Isn't that living Bhagavatam? Of course it is. Amazing, amazing devotees. It's awesome, you know? Just awesome. So I'm on probably number 5 or 6 now. So far he's done, I think, a little, maybe 80 of them, something. So I'm binging on him. I watch him all the time. Who's he going to interview next? Who's going to tell their story next? It's wonderful. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So, Krishna Chaitanya, Govinda, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. So this is a very short chapter. You read Krishna book. Summary study of the 10th canto, Srimad Bhagavatam, by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Prabhupada has done something that no one's really been able to do, is actually have a formal institution. And it definitely has its challenges. But the impact of it is powerful, because having such a broad base, a broad preaching effort, massive preaching effort, and to try and keep it organized, how to do it is a real challenge for the managers. If it's too centralized, everyone's stifled. And if it's just kind of like a free-for-all, then it gets whimsical and it gets bizarre. So how to find that, my father was teaching me how to drive. I was 18. And I would go too far to the left. He'd say, no, too far to the left. Then I'd go too far to the right. No. He was like, you're going to get us killed. Just stay in the middle of the road. So it's like that verse in Nectar of Instruction when someone's trying to make personal progress, to to follow rules and regulations and get all caught in them just for the sake and forget why you're even doing it. It's just rules and regulations, try and control the thing. That's no good for devotional life. And to just act whimsically and do whatever you want, that's no good for spiritual life. So where's that middle ground? That's for a person's personal progress. Even Krishna says, Bhagavad Gita, what can repression accomplish? All repressed. I can't do this, I can't do that, this is no good, that's no good. What is that? Or, whatever, hey. That's no good either. Neither of those things is good for spiritual person's personal. There has to be some regulation. That regulation can take different forms. Just hearing and chanting is a form of regulation. Hearing regularly is a form of regulation. But there has to be some form of regulation. So with a social body, a spiritual body, a massive movement, to have too much, that's no good for spiritual progress. And to be all whimsical and all over the place and totally, that's no good either. So that is the challenge for these managers. It's a huge challenge. How to keep the whole thing together for a worldwide, have a big impact as an institution. Institutions have a lot of influence in a world that is controlled by institutions. And Prabhupada managed to put something together. Krishna worked through him. And it's a huge challenge. Huge challenge. What else is there to do, right? Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. So, Jai Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. Ma Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namane. And it's very similar to Bhaktisiddhanta's pranam too. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Iti Namane. So you've got Vishnu, the Vishnu aspect of the Lord, which is this for the benefit of the world and organization and like that. Vishnu, the maintainer, and then Krishna, the pastime aspect of Krishna. Both things are there. So carrying on what Bhaktisiddhanta put into motion, Prabhupada has taken it and expanded it. Only someone who is empowered by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu can do something like that. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Hare. So there's both in there. Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prasthaya. Hare Krishna. Wow. So this is the pastime one, Krishna Prasthaya. This is the deliverance of Dvivida gorilla. I really like this one. It's a lot of fun. This one's a lot of fun. It's Balaram. Balaram is Krishna in the mood of a devotee of Krishna. Not in the mood of Radharani, but in the mood of, what's the one for friendship and paternal? Fraternal. Fraternal is a fraternal friendship, like an older brother. Radharani, she's a devotee of Krishna in the mood of conjugal love. Balaram, she's not Vishnu Shakti, she's, what do you call it? Shakti Tattva, energy of the Lord, Shakti Tattva. Lord Balaram is Vishnu Tattva, but he's in the mood of a servant also, as an older brother. So he's as good as Krishna. He's Krishna's older brother. So he's visiting Vrindavan, and everyone is in ecstasy having Balaram there. Nanda and Yasoda have stopped their crying. And the cows are giving lots of milk. The gopis are in ecstasy dancing. It's just like Krishna being there. The trees are oozing honey. Everybody's blissed out because Balaram is Krishna. It's like when Krishna appears as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he's Krishna, but he's in the mood of Radharani. So this is Krishna, but in the mood of Krishna's older brother, but it's Krishna. So he stayed for 2 months, and he's Krishna, and they're dancing in the moonlight with Krishna in the evenings. Young girls. Oh, nobody's young anymore. They're all mature now because Krishna's been away for a while. But they have this mood, and so they're meeting Balaram in the forest at night. Krishna. While Sukadev Goswami continued to speak on the transcendental pastimes of Lord Krishna, King Parikshit, upon hearing him, became more and more enthusiastic and wanted to hear further. Sukadev Goswami next narrated the story of Dvivida, the gorilla who was killed by Lord Balaram. This gorilla was a great friend of Bhaumashura's, or Narakashura, who was killed by Krishna in connection with his kidnapping 16,000 princesses from all over the world. We didn't get to that part yet. Krishna, I don't think we read that yet. No. Dvivida was the minister of King Sugriva, his brother, Minda. Dvivida was the minister of King Sugriva. His brother Minda was also a very powerful gorilla king. When Dvivida gorilla heard the story of his friend Bhaumashura being killed by Lord Krishna, he planned to create mischief throughout the country in order to avenge the death of Bhaumashura. I asked one of the Maharajas about this gorilla thing, like, who was the other gorilla? Jambavan. I said, gorilla? And he quoted something Prabhupada had said when he was asked about this. And Prabhupada said, not exactly like a gorilla, but like a gorilla. Very uncivilized, uncultured, animalistic person living in the jungle. That was the way the Maharaj explained this. So he was a gorilla like that. When Dvivida gorilla heard the story of his friend Bhaumashura's being killed by Lord Krishna, he planned to create mischief throughout the country in order to avenge the death of Bhaumashura. His first business was to set fires in villages, towns, and industrial and mining places, as well as the residential quarters of the mercantile men who were busy dairy farming and protecting cows. This is a really barbaric, super barbaric individual. Super barbaric. Sometimes he would uproot a big mountain and tear it to pieces. In this way he created great disturbances all over the country, especially in the province of Katwar. The city of Dwarka was situated in Katwar province, and because Lord Krishna used to live in this city, Dvivida specifically made it his target of disturbance. Dvivida was as powerful as 10,000 elephants. Sometimes he would go to the seashore, and with his powerful hands he would create so much disturbance in the sea that he would overflood the neighboring cities and villages. I wonder how he got such power. We know that Banasura got his power by worshipping Lord Shiva. I wonder how he got his power. And also Pandraka. They were worshipping the demigods. So I wonder. Often he would go to the hermitage of great saintly persons, sages, and cause a great disturbance by smashing their beautiful gardens and orchards. Not only did he create disturbances in that way, but sometimes he would pass urine and stool on the sacred sacrificial arena. That's something very popular with demons. They like to do that. And it's said also the demon um, mentality is if you can't eat it, you can't have sex with it, then pee on it. That's what they, so that's their attitude towards sacrificial places, and like especially with Tulsi Devi. Like a dog, what does a dog do with a small tree or a big tree? They urinate on it. So that's what they do to Tulsi, the dog. He would thus pollute the whole atmosphere. He also kidnapped both men and women, taking them away from their residential places to the caves of the mountains. Putting them within the caves, he would close the entrance with large chunks of stone, like the bringy insect, which arrests and carry away many flies and other insects and puts them in the holes of the trees where he lives. We can only surmise that they died in there. No food, no water. So he entombed them alive. What a horrible death they would go through. He thus regularly defied the law in the country. Not only that, he would sometimes pollute, of course, the female members of many aristocratic families by forcibly raping them, of course. I mean, how can you leave that one out? If you're putting people alive in caves and locking them up with stones, you know you're going to be doing these other things too. I mean, really? Of course. While creating such great disturbance all over the country, sometimes he would hear very sweet musical sounds from the Raivataka mountains. So he entered the mountainous region. There he saw Lord Balaram was present in the midst of many beautiful young girls, enjoying their company while engaged in singing and dancing. He became captivated by the beautiful features of Lord Balaram's body, each and every part of which was very beautiful, decorated as he was with a garland of lotus flowers. He was awestruck at seeing Krishna in the form of Balaram. Similarly, all the young girls present, dressed and garlanded with flowers, exhibited much beauty. Lord Balaram seemed to be fully intoxicated from drinking the Varuni beverage, and his eyes appeared to be rolling in a drunken state. Lord Balaram appeared just like the king of the elephants in the midst of many she-elephants. This gorilla by the name of Dvivida could climb up on the trees and jump from one branch to another. Sometimes he would jerk the branches, creating a particular type of sound. Killa, killa, something like that. So that Lord Balaram was greatly distracted from the pleasing atmosphere. Sometimes Dvivida would come before the women and exhibit different types of caricatures. See, he's making faces. He does other things too, but he's making faces. By nature, young women are apt to enjoy everything with laughter and joking, and when the gorilla came before them, they did not take him seriously, but simply laughed at him. However, the gorilla was so rude that even in the presence of Balaram, he began to show the lower part of his body to the women. And sometimes he would come forward to show his teeth while moving his eyebrows. Woo! Wow. Hare Krishna. Woohoo! He disrespected the women even in the presence of Balaram. Lord Balaram's name suggests that he is not only very powerful, but he takes pleasure in exhibiting extraordinary strength. So he took a stone and threw it at Dvivida. The gorilla, however, artfully avoided being struck by the stone. In order to insult Balaram, the gorilla took away the earthen pot in which the Varuni was kept. Dvivida, being thus intoxicated with his limited strength, began to tear off the valuable clothes worn by Balaram and the accompanying young girls, starting to sound like a brawl in a nightclub or a brawl in a sleazy bar. I used to sell flowers in these bars to make money, and sometimes they would get pretty bad. They'd be hitting each other over the head with chairs, and the police had to come and break the whole thing up. Krishna starting to sound like one of those. He was so puffed up that he thought that Balaram could not do anything to chastise him, and he continued to offend Balaramaji and his companions. When Lord Balaram personally saw the disturbances created by the gorilla and heard that he had already performed many mischievous activities all over the country, I wonder where he heard that. Where did he hear that? Anyway, when he heard that he had already performed many mischievous activities all over the country, he became very angry, decided to kill him. Immediately, he took his club in his hands. The gorilla could understand that now Balaram was going to attack him. In order to counteract Balaram, he immediately uprooted a big oak tree, and with great force he came and struck at Lord Balaram's head. Okay, so here we can see in Krishna Lila, Balaram is very angry because this gorilla is offending everyone and attacking the devotees, and he's decided to kill him. But in Chaitanya Lila, we see the same Balaram manifest as Nityananda in a different mood. Although Jagai and Madhai were like this gorilla, they were just like the Dvivida gorilla. They were raping women, they were stealing, they were killing, who knows what they were doing, and they were offending devotees. They were a menace to the peaceful society at the time. And when they personally attacked Nityananda, interesting enough, they hit him with a piece of pot that had held their intoxicants. Interestingly enough, Dvivida has just thrown a pot that held intoxicants at Balaram. Here, Balaram becomes angry and decides to kill them. But in Chaitanya Lila, when Lord Chaitanya comes, Sudarshan, to kill them, Nityananda pleads their case. He says, no, in this incarnation, you've come to deliver these people, and they're all like this. If you kill them, you'll have to kill everyone. Your incarnation as Mahaprabhu is the most merciful. You've come to deliver the most fallen, not to kill everyone. Hare Krishna. Interesting. Very, very interesting. So here, Balaram he's decided he's going to kill this Dvivida. Lord Balaram, however, immediately caught over a big tree and remained undisturbed, just like a great mountain. To retaliate, he took his club by the name of Sunanda and began to hit the gorilla with it. The gorilla's head was severely injured. Currents of blood flowed from his head with great force, but the stream of blood enhanced his beauty like a stream of liquid manganese coming out of a great mountain. So the blood is pouring out of Dviv's head. It's streaming down his body, like maybe sometimes they show a picture of a volcano and the liquid lava coming out. It's horrifying, but it's also beautiful at the same time. It's awesome. So he's like that. The blood is streaming down his body like liquid manganese. The striking of Balaram's club did not even slightly disturb him. On the contrary, he immediately uprooted another big oak tree, and after clipping all its leaves, he began to strike Balaram's head with it. But Balaram, with the help of his club, tore the tree to pieces. Since the gorilla was very angry, he took another tree in his hands and began to strike Lord Balaram's body. Again, Lord Balaram tore the tree to pieces, and the fighting continued. Poor trees. However, they must be getting liberated because they're contacting Krishna directly somehow. Poor trees. Again, Lord Balaram tore the tree to pieces, and the fighting continued. Each time the gorilla would bring out a big tree to strike Balaram, Lord Balaram would tear the tree to pieces by the striking of his club. The gorilla Dvivida would clutch another tree from another direction and again attack Balaram in this way. As a result of this continuing fighting, the forest became treeless. Krishna. It might have been clear cut or something. When no more trees were available, Dvivida took help from the hills and threw large pieces of stone, like rainfall, upon the body of Balaram. Lord Balaram also, in great sporting mood, began to smash those big pieces of stone into mere pebbles. The gorilla, being bereft of all trees and stones, now stood before him and waved his strong fists. Boy, they just never give up. They just get angrier and angrier. It's said that if you give good advice to a demon, they simply become angry. If you give good advice to someone with a demonic mentality, they just get angry. It's good advice, but they get angry. So the demons, they never give up. They just, even though they're defeated like completely, they just get angrier and angrier and angrier. Then, with great force, he began to beat the chest of Lord Balaram with his fists. This time, Lord Balaram became most angry. Since the gorilla was striking him with his hands, he would not strike him back with his own weapons, the club or the plow. Simply with his fist, he began to strike the collarbone of the gorilla. The striking proved to be fatal to Dvivida, who immediately vomited blood and fell unconscious upon the ground. When the gorilla fell, it appeared that all the hills and forests tottered. After this horrible incident, all the siddhas, great sages, and saintly persons from the upper planetary system began to shower flowers on the person of Lord Balaram, and sounds of glorifying the supremacy of Lord Balaram were vibrated. All of them began to chant, "All glories to Lord Balaram! Let us offer our respectful obeisances unto your lotus feet. By your killing this great demon Dvivida, you have initiated an auspicious era for the world." Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. All such jubilant sounds of victory were heard from outer space. After killing the great demon Dvivida and being worshipped by showers of flowers and glorious sounds of victory, Balaram returned to his capital city, Dwarka. So Krishna, in the form of his devotee, in the mood of older brother and friend, killed the demon, Dvivida. Hare Krishna. You notice at the end of the different pastimes, there's usually a benediction, like, one who hears this pastime is free from all sinful activity, or one who hears this narration gets pure devotional service, or usually, especially at the end of killing a demon. So here, benediction is that Balaram has initiated an auspicious era for the world, for everyone. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So Krishna incarnated as Krishna 5,000 years ago with his pastimes, his associates, his entourage, paraphernalia. And 500 years ago, he incarnated again as a devotee of Krishna to give what no other incarnation has ever given before. Love of Godhead, ecstatic love of Godhead. The highest mood of his most intimate devotee. Radha. The more we know about Krishna, factually, the better off we are to actually appreciate who this person is. If you're going to develop love for someone in a relationship of service, you want to know everything about them. Where they've been, what they've done, what they like, what they don't like. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Govinda, Hare. Krishna